Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being here. So, here you can watch some sausage being made because I went to bed last night with a script having been written for me for my CNN program about the Virginia election, which, of course, is Tuesday, this very tight gubernatorial race. Larry Sabato, Dr. Larry Sabato, as he was a guest of mine on POTUS yesterday, Friday, he will be a guest of mine on CNN today. And I intended for the focus of my conversation with Dr. Sabato to be about the significance of education as an 11th hour issue in the Virginia gubernatorial race, and how it's yet another example of the unpredictability of football. I'll tell you why. That's on my brain. Of politics, that these issues you never could have anticipated end up playing a significant role in the outcome of a race. I said in a little comment here that is on the side of this screen that if politics were a ball, it would be a football because of the unpredictable nature of the way it's going to bounce. Who could have ever imagined that Toni Morrison's 1987 novel, Beloved, would turn out to play such a critical role in the Virginia election? And yet it is, just like Michael Dukakis getting on a tank, just like George Herbert Walker Bush looking at his watch in a debate. I mean, those things that, just like Donald Trump in 2016 in response to the grab him by the P, well, there's an intangible. The grab him by the P tape comes out, the Access Hollywood tape, and then he responds in kind by trotting out all of those Clinton accusers. Or Anthony Weiner's laptop playing a role in the waning days of that campaign. Or 2020, will the media or won't the media cover Hunter Biden's laptop? There's always something that you never could have imagined. And it's what makes it so engaging and fun to watch elections. I mean, if you read Game Change and Double Down, which Mark Halpern co-authored, both books are replete with examples of what I'm talking about. So anyway, bottom line is I went to bed prepared to read a setup and talk about Toni Morrison's book and the gaffe of Terry McAuliffe in the debate, right? We've all been through this before. But now there's a new intangible in Virginia. And the new intangible, as we are 2-3 days away from the election, a lot of people have already voted, the Lincoln Project sent individuals with tiki torches, a la Charlottesville, to a Youngkin rally, where they stood outside a bus for Youngkin, used that as a backdrop, and they said, "We're all in for Glenn. We're all in for Glenn." And I tweeted about this within the last 30 minutes, and I'm trying to understand, like, who's going to get torched for this? Is the McAuliffe campaign, even though they weren't directly involved, it was the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project, which is theoretically a group of Republicans that are so anti-Trump that they're now trying to hold others accountable for their support of Donald Trump. But nevertheless, the Lincoln Project is not going to appear on the ballot. So who's going to get torched for this? Will it be the McAuliffe campaign because it will be perceived as a stunt and a fraud, right? Will it be perceived as a fraudulent act? Or will it achieve its purpose, which was to remind people of Donald Trump having said there were good people on both sides? By the way, I remember parsing that tape. That's not exact. I mean, he said those words, but there was much more in context. But nevertheless, work with me on this. So will the McAuliffe campaign benefit because people will say, oh, Youngkin really is, just a protege of Trump, even if Trump is not physically in the state? Or will people see this as a dirty trick? In other words, I think in a nutshell, as I tweeted, it depends on how you view those tiki torch bearers. Were they engaged in a fraud? Or were they engaged in satire? I couldn't think of the word that I was looking for before starting YouTube Live, and I went back and forth with TC, as a matter of fact. I'm thinking, what's the word I want to use? They either were engaged in a fraud They were representing themselves as something they were not. They were representing themselves as torch-bearing Youngkin advocates, or and if they're a fraud, then there deserves to be blowback against them and anybody who supported them. Or were they engaged in, and I'm thinking of different words. I'm thinking of, is it theater? Is it irony? Is it sarcasm? No, it's satire. Or were they engaged in satire? Use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize, particularly in the context of contemporary politics. Were they engaged in satire? If they were trying to represent themselves as something they were not, it's a whole different kettle of fish, as they say. I just pulled the Hill's write-up of this. Bear with me here, because I thought this was the most complete reporting that I'd seen on the subject. The Lincoln Project said that it sent people with tiki torches to a campaign event held by Virginia GOP gubernatorial candidate Glenn Youngkin on Friday, sparking backlash against the activist group. The anti-Trump group issued a statement saying it pulled the stunt in Charlottesville because Youngkin had not condemned the 2017 Unite the Right white nationalist rally. Today, quote, today's demonstration was our way of reminding Virginians what happened in Charlottesville 4 years ago, Republican Party's embrace of those values and Glenn Youngkin's failure to condemn it, the statement said. If he will denounce Trump's assertion that the Charlottesville rioters possessed, quote, very fine qualities, then we'll withdraw our tiki torches, the group continued. Until then, we'll be back. Earlier on Friday, a group of men holding torches stood next to Youngkin's campaign bus while he was inside a restaurant in Charlottesville. NBC 29 reported Youngkin accused the men of working for Democratic candidate Terry McAuliffe. Quote, they'll do anything to win, and he's doing anything to win, and so he's paying people to show up and act silly at our rallies, said Youngkin. The reporter from NBC 29, Elizabeth Holmes, said these men approached Glenn Youngkin's bus as it pulled up, saying what sounded like, we're all in for Glenn. Here they are standing in front of the bus at his campaign event in Guadalajara. McAuliffe's campaign condemned the stunt. What happened today in Charlottesville is disgusting. Well, this tells you they think there's going to be blowback, right? I mean, to answer my question, is it satire or is it fraud? If the McAuliffe campaign is so quickly responding with condemnation, they must think it was fraud or it'll be perceived as fraud. Quote, what happened today in Charlottesville is disgusting and distasteful, and the McAuliffe campaign condemns it in the strongest terms. So said McAuliffe's campaign manager. Those involved should immediately apologize. His name is Chris Bowling, and he tweeted that out. The Virginia Democratic Party said it did not have any role. Okay, they want distance. Again, if it were satire, hey, you know, they're using humor, they're using irony to make a very serious point. It's only satire. If people thought it was satire, then I don't think the Virginia Democratic Party would be running from it either. So it tells me that the view on the ground is, we have a problem here. This is going to be perceived as a dirty trick. The Virginia Democratic Party said it did not have any role in Friday's event, said that it was shameful and wrong to make any such allegations. Vice News has identified one of the people involved as Lauren Windsor, a liberal activist known for going undercover to get politicians to share their unfiltered thoughts. She confirmed on Twitter that she worked with the Lincoln Project to coordinate the stunt, quote, in my capacity as a communications consultant. So that's the very latest from Virginia. The race is neck and neck. You know that Joe Biden won the state by 10 points. You may also know, if you're a listener of mine from POTUS, and I hope that you are, that Larry Sabato reminded us of the curse of the party outside the White House running for governor in Virginia. He said since 1977, the party in the White House loses the Virginia gubernatorial election every time but one. since 1977. And the one time that a candidate was able to upend that trajectory, it was Terry McAuliffe. You know what else I think? I think that this go it alone strategy, I remember this in court. I remember this from trying cases that sometimes I would be trying a case and there would be multiple defendants with a whole slew of defense lawyers. And I always viewed it as an advantage if I were able to function and perform against all of them if it was just me and my client. Like, look at that whole army over there. And I'm just here with my client, just the two of us, a little David and Goliath kind of a thing. Bringing in Biden, bringing in Obama, bringing in Kamala Harris, bringing in Stacey Abrams, bringing in everybody on the so-called A team, and then Youngkin keeping Trump away and just doing his tour of Virginia in a bus, a 50-stop tour. I think that's smart. Like, I'm wondering, I know that McAuliffe needs to rally the vote, but I'm not sure he should have brought in Kamala Harris yesterday with Pharrell. Wow, I said it correctly, didn't I? Pharrell, yeah. Anyway, pretty interesting stuff. It's what makes politics fun and unpredictable. Fun because of the unpredictable nature of it. So today's survey question at Smerconish.com asks, I'm not sure of the way we worded it. Did we ask who benefits from it or who loses from it? But I'm asking you about the political dynamics of the Tiki Torch stunt in Virginia. And by the way, maybe it doesn't matter a hill of beans. Maybe it's just novelty at this stage. It'll probably be something that will further whatever narrative people already have. Like, yeah, Glenn Youngkin, you never held Donald Trump accountable for that, for what he said or didn't say about Charlottesville. Or what a dirty trick, that McAuliffe campaign, even though it was the Lincoln Project, just engaged in. More dirty Democratic politics. Get rid of McAuliffe. Maybe each side, maybe it's glass half empty, glass half full. I gave you my analysis. It requires just a little more knowledge. I need to know how they presented themselves. Were they engaged in fraud or were they engaged in satire? Let me just see quickly who we've got here. Hang on, I've got to adjust my screen because you're flowing off the side of my screen. Sean, Tuesday's survey question, YouTube or Facebook? No, it's got to be YouTube. It's got, especially in light of everything that came out. If you're talking about me, Sean, and whether I'm using Facebook or YouTube, for me, it's got to be YouTube, especially in light of all those documents that came out from the whistleblower and all the BS with the algorithm. And for another reason, let me be very transparent. I'm doing this live on YouTube because I'm trying to build my channel where one element every day from the SiriusXM program is on YouTube. So, for example, yesterday's program, I interviewed the former Stanford sailing coach, John Vandemore, because he was caught up and prosecuted in Operation Varsity Blues. And I wanted you to be able to see him and evaluate his story more so than just hear it on radio. And I watched it last night and I thought it was great. I thought it was really great. So I now have the benefit of giving you video from every day's radio show, just one item. And I want you to see it. If I were over on Facebook, then I have to say, oh, go over to YouTube and watch some of the radio segments, but you're already here. Mary Coyle, you're disappointed in the Lincoln Project. Mary, if this were going to be satire, then they needed to go over the top so that everybody would know, oh yeah, they're using humor to make a very serious point. It seemed amateurish to me, amateurish. Thank you, Tammy. You're digging the videos. And so is Scott Weissman. Thank you, Scott. Ann, you couldn't find the live feed until I know. You know what, Ann? We keep screwing up. Like every Saturday morning, the link ought to be right there for you. You click it and you watch. And frankly, I couldn't find the link today. I'm working on that behind the scenes. Jamal, when you have a scheduled live, that frequently doesn't go well. Today, we all got the notification late, plus the live was not already on your page. I know, Jamal, we effed up. We're working on it. Joseph Abrams, you think that the Tiki Torch stunt backfired. Michael Garrity loving the YouTube videos. Shar D also had problems getting me this morning. I know, Shar, I'm embarrassed about it. Bill Miner, what's my prediction? I only know that it's going to be very close. I only know that it's going to be very close. I don't want to say like, oh, I'm predicting this. But if you and I were having a beer and you said to me, okay, who do you think wins? I think Youngkin ekes out a victory. I think Youngkin ekes out a victory, but I'm not going all in. And don't call me on Wednesday and say, well, you predicted, because I'm not predicting anything other than a close race. By the way, it doesn't really matter in the national scheme of things. It's a state that Joe Biden won by 10 points. The beneficiary of this is going to be the Republican Party. And I think the takeaway for Republicans around the country is how you thread the needle. You run as a Republican, winning Trump's base, but without getting too close to Trump. Apparently, it can be done. And even if Youngkin loses, he will have demonstrated that you can do that. I'll tell you one other thing. It's entirely possible, and then I got to roll because I got to go back to work. It's entirely possible that Trump comes in on Monday night in this tele-rally and screws it all up, although it'll be so late. Why is Trump doing that? I'll tell you why in a second. Trump is doing the tele-rally on Monday so that he's got just enough skin in the game that he can claim the victory is his. And enough distance that, well, it was Youngkin. You know, he didn't want me in. I was only there on a video. If I had been there in person, if he'd brought me to Charlottesville, he'd have won the thing. That's what Trump is doing. Trump claims victory whatever happens Tuesday. Whatever happens. It's victory that it was so close, and if only the guy had gotten closer to me, I'd have pulled him over the finish line. Or if Youngkin wins outright, Trump will be there to say it's all because of him. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, really interesting, right? Who just got torched in Virginia? Who just got torched in Virginia? Do me a favor, if you wouldn't mind, share this video with a friend so that we can build our audience here on YouTube. That'll keep me incentivized to keep doing more and more of these videos. Of course, you're registered for the daily newsletter, right? This will lead the newsletter today, the best coverage that we can find on the whole Virginia situation. All right. Have a wonderful day. Share this with a friend, and thank you.